Hey, what is up, awesome people? My name is Shady and I'm a geek. But I'm not a super geek. If there was a geek meter, I guess I would place myself around maybe a 5. See, first off, I have dated and I did marry a female. That has to count for something. I don't watch anime. There you go. And I have never played or collected Pokemon cards. But wait. I used to play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, well, maybe I'm not exactly a 5. But yeah, I did used to play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons, like, every weekend. See, when I was in school, my parents moved around a lot. That made it really difficult to keep friends or even make friends. But at one point, we did live in the same place for 3.5 years in the middle of town. And it was during that period of time I became friends with 3 other kids who were into video games just like me. And they were the ones that introduced me to Dungeons & Dragons. Now, every group of teenagers has a ringleader. And our ringleader was also our dungeon master. And this kid could weave a story so descriptive and so convincing, it honestly felt like you were there. He kept the game always moving, and he knew all the rules just off the top of his head. He was never fumbling through the rule book or making things up. This kid was a 13-year-old dungeon master savant. Not only was he a dungeon master savant, his mother was single and she worked nights and weekends. Plus, she left him money to order pizza for dinner, and she didn't care if his friends stayed the night. So for 3.5 years, every Friday and Saturday night was order out pizza, Nintendo, and Dungeons & Dragons till 4 in the morning. Ah, the good old days. All good things have to come to an end eventually. Our dungeon master, he got a girlfriend, and that was pretty much the end of our weekends. And then not too soon after that, I moved away. Now, it's hard enough to make friends at a new high school, so no way in hell was I going to lead off with, "Hey, do you guys play Dungeons & Dragons?" I kept that on the down low. I eventually did make some friends, and one time while we were all hanging out, I pulled out my copy of the Dungeons & Dragons player manual and I said, "Hey, you guys interested in playing some D&D? They looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And not only that, word got back to some of the parents, and after that, I was forbid to enter their homes. Around this time, Dungeons & Dragons was deemed the #1 source of corruption among children. And if you play Dungeons & Dragons, you were at risk for a whole assortment of calamities like demonic possession. You might join a cult. You could even kill yourself or murder others. It's pretty funny looking back on this now, because on the list of things that are accused of corrupting our youth today, I'm guessing D&D isn't even on that list. Well, regardless, I never did meet or become friends with anyone who played D&D after that, and I haven't played D&D since. In 2004, Milton Bradley released HeroScape, and despite being an adult and having 0 friends or family interested in playing any type of fantasy role-playing game, I really wanted to buy it. It looked so much fun with those giant customizable playing fields and all the cool-looking miniatures. Every time I passed it in the store, my heart would say, they may not want to play it at first, but you'll talk them into it. They're going to play it, and then they're going to find out how much fun it is, and then every Friday and Saturday night, we'll order out pizza and play HeroScape to 4 in the morning. But my mind would say, seriously, dude, how are you going to get people who barely understand this to understand this? So I never did buy HeroScape. But when I first saw WARTILE was announced, needless to say, I was very interested. This game looks like a mixture of Dungeons & Dragons and HeroScape, and guess what? It plays like a mixture of Dungeons & Dragons and HeroScape. I was lucky enough to play WARTILE for a couple days before it was released on Steam Early Access, and it is phenomenal. I had so much fun playing this game. It is an RTS, but it's not your typical strategy game. You start out on a battle board, and this is where the campaign is played out. And as you beat encounters, others will unlock. And after beating all the encounters on that battle board, you'll unlock new battle boards with new encounters. You have a unit of miniatures, and these miniatures are moved around the game board to accomplish different goals that are set forth during the campaign. For example, during the tutorial, you are tasked with killing a goat and placing it on the altar. And don't worry, just like playing D&D, this won't lead to demonic possession. Shut up. And during these matches, you're going to encounter other tasks you can perform for additional gold. You're also going to find treasure chests which contain new equipment and gold, and of course, you're going to face off against enemies. Now, one of the unique things about WARTILE is from the tabletop, you can buy and purchase new miniatures and equipment using the gold that you've earned during the game. You can equip your purchased miniatures with new equipment, tokens, and ability, which will then modify their stats. Each figurine has ability cards which are available to them, and you can equip one of these. These ability cards then can be used throughout the match at no cost, although they are on a refresh timer. For example, the warrior has the ability to shield bash, stunning the other miniature for 5 seconds. Also during a game, you have 5 cards in your hand, and these cards can be changed from the tabletop as well. These cards do cost battle points, and the amount of points to use the card is on the top left of the card. Battle points are earned by defeating enemies during the game, and once you use a card, the points are spent and the card is removed from your hand. Now, what is so different about WARTILE is that there are no turns, and you can move the miniatures wherever you want as long as you have the movement points available. At first, I doubted how this was all going to work, because it's almost like playing chess with no turns. But since each miniature has its strengths and weaknesses against other types of units, this becomes a constant play for position on the board, attempting to get higher ground, or flanking positions, or covering up miniatures who are low in health with another miniature. For example, if one character is getting pounded, you could quickly move him to the back and attempt to move another in his place. Or you could always throw up a defensive shield blocking the incoming damage while you attempt to maneuver another character behind the attacker. And believe me, the AI is smart enough to jockey for position. If an advantage is to be gained through higher ground, the computer is going to attempt to get it. There is RNG involved, and I know that may turn off some people, but I felt this was smart on their part, as the inclusion of die rolls would have just slowed the game down. And you just have to accept that die rolls are taking place, you just can't see them. And for those that are going to say, I just feel like I don't have enough control over the battle, by including the special abilities and the cards and the constant attempts to outmaneuver one another, this was enough to keep me thoroughly entertained during these battles. The game is multiplayer. You can play against friends in quest-oriented multiplayer or competitive matches. As far as the graphics, I think they speak for themselves. I personally think they're beautiful, and I think the detail work they put into the dioramas is top-notch. And I mean, look at the detail that went into these miniatures. Overall, I applaud Playwood Games for creating this game. Many times with these early access titles, you can see the vision, you can see what they're aiming for. But a lot of times, they just lack the execution. And I think you can tell this game was well thought out, it was well planned out, and it was well executed. So why is this game in early access? And it's the same thing that a lot of other titles are in early access for. It's because of content. And if you go over to WARTILE website, they lay out what they're working on, and much of that is for new battle boards. If I had to say anything negative about WARTILE, it would be the difficulty level. The game, while initially was difficult, once I figured out how to move my squad around correctly, and then once I figured out that you could bait the computer into one-on-one fights, the difficulty drastically dropped. And Playwood Games has stated that throughout early access, they would be tweaking the difficulty. I think the groundwork's already been laid for this game to develop into something really special. All that's needed is a few tweaks, a little polishing, and a lot more content. So guys, if you're an RTS fan, a strategy board game fan, a D&D fan, or a HeroScape fan, I highly recommend WARTILE. And who knows, maybe your friends will like the game too. You can order pizza and play every Friday and Saturday night to 4 in the morning. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, I really would appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. Later.